I think I've reached a decision point on these two receivers. As you may recall, I originally was going to use this receiver in a kind of nostalgia retro to sharpen up my radio repair skills and see if I could find something wrong with it and fix it and so on. But as I pointed out in the last video, it works. I'll show you what you can see that that one is working pretty good. This one also is working pretty well. So the dilemma that I have is I originally set out with the idea that I would restore that one and repair this one, but I never really intended to have two restored SX62As, partly because I don't have the room for them. You may recall when I first started this video, one of them was in here, which is where I plan to put the final version. But I think my efforts should be put more on this receiver, and the main reason is this one has been modified by someone. It's also been partially restored, and so there's a lot of undoing in this one that I would have to do to bring it back to original factory. This one was, as far as I could tell, original factory when I got it. So except for the knobs and a few other items that I had to add, like a front panel glass and things like that, this is essentially a complete factory SX62A. So where I'm going to go from here is I'm going to focus entirely on this one, get it all aligned. It appears to now work on all bands and all modes. So get that up to spec on the alignment and check out all the bands and make sure it works, and then go ahead and start buttoning it up, put the lid on that capacitor that I replaced earlier back there, and get it back in the case and go ahead and call this project a successful restoration. At least I hope it will be, assuming that it aligns okay and that all the bands work as well as they appear to. I'll be very happy with this restoration. I'm going to put this receiver aside as a part set. Originally, it shows how your expectations can be. I bought this set on eBay. The seller said it works. Well, it does, but of course it had been heavily modified. This one, the seller said parts only, and so I really bought this one for the purpose of using it for parts to fix this one, and it turns out the roles have been reversed. So that's where I'm headed. Fix this one up, align it, check it all out, and I think with a few more segments on this video, we should be able to wrap all this up in this last part of this SX62A restoration. I've connected up or turned on my signal generator. This is the one I'm going to use. It's a vintage generator, at least a preliminary use. And what I'm looking for is about how far off the alignment is on this receiver. So I have the dial set at, well, actually I have the generator set to 1400 kilohertz or kilocycles, which should be about here on the band, but instead it tunes it in about here. So that shows you about how far off it is. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Turn on the modulation, and you see there, and then as you rock, on either side of 1400, you see this is 1500, this is 1200 or 1300, so 1400 is in between. That's where the generator is set. Turn the modulation off. So that's about how far off the oscillator in this receiver is. Not unusual for a set of this age. So the next step is to get out the alignment instructions and start aligning. Usually you start with the IF, but we'll look and see what the recommended procedure is. I've never aligned an SX62 before, so I'm looking forward to learning something. Before I actually start on the alignment, one of the things that I have done is cleaned up the tops of these cans. And maybe a little note here. I like this particular cleaner. There are lots of others that are probably just as good, maybe some better. One reason I like this is it's not caustic, it's completely safe, and that is important with regard to some of the chassis issues, because most of these chassis were plated. If you use a caustic substance on it, like Brasso or something of that sort, yeah, you'll get a real shiny surface, but it will remove the plating in many cases, and you'll pay for it down the road. So I suggest that you stick to non-caustic cleaners like this. The second thing that I've done is I've put that capacitor back, that is this one right here, and used this this tape. This is just, it's called exhaust system repair tape. You can get it at any auto supply store. And finally, I have applied some Teflon gel. Yeah, there it is. Teflon, this particular brand is called Lube Gel. It's made by Archer. Well, I guess that's actually an old Radio Shack product. Primarily along this track where the slide rule dial slides, and that's because there are going to be times when you want to rock the dial back and forth and you want it to be as smooth as possible. You want a little backlash and so on. So enough of the preliminaries. I'm now ready to get started on aligning the IFs in this SX62A. Okay, I'm now getting started on the IF alignment, and you may notice that the connection, it says connect the high side to pin 1 of the V4. That's the mixer tube, using a 0.1 microfarad capacitor, which I've done over here. You can barely hear the signal. I have it turned down all the way. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. And then you adjust these IF transformers, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, and A6. Now, on the diagram here, A1 is this one, A2 is there, A3 is there. So, okay, where are 4, 5, and 6? Well, this is the top side of the chassis. That is, that's over here. This is A1. This is A2. This is A3. The other adjustments, that is 3, 4, and 5, are underneath. It may be a little bit hard to see here. Let me see if it'll focus. You see right in there, you notice my finger is picking up the signal and carrying it into there, is where the other adjustments are. So, I'm going to be doing that, but rather than bore you with twisting those things and having you have to sit there and listen to this annoying noise for a long time, I'm going to stop the video, I want to peek up the IFs, and then we'll go on to the next step. No, this isn't a retro view. I have decided to restring the dial cord. The reason is the springs on this one were pretty shot. We'll show you how they look. You notice how pulled out that one is? So I went and got some new springs to replace because this just wasn't tight enough and it was starting to slip again. I had fixed it once, but the reality is there wasn't a way to go with this thing the way it was. Now maybe I'm being too picky, but this is a special receiver to me and I want it to work right. So I've removed the front panel, removed the internal panel, that is the panel that has the dial lights, so that I can get to this area, and now I'm going to restring the dial. Well, I am a little bit bummed out because I went to put this last segment together. By the way, this is out of order. I'm actually filming this after I completed this entire part, but I'm going to insert it here in the middle for this reason. After I got the video finished on the SX62, I started putting together this final part and discovered that a major part of the alignment procedure is missing. I know I downloaded it into my computer, but now I can't find the files, and unfortunately I have erased them from the camera, so they're pretty much gone forever. Here is a little of what was missing. Part of it was the IF alignment for FM, and the other part, let me pause for a second, is this part, which is the alignment of the actual first the AM portions, that is the AM first shortwave, second shortwave, third shortwave, and then this rather unique 30 to 50 megahertz shortwave, and then the high shortwave. Both of the last two are have also FM available. But unfortunately that video is missing, so I think what I may do at some point in the future is go back and take that SX62 back apart and redo the alignment. Now, I know most of you are going to say that, gosh, you're already proven to us that you're obsessive compulsive, and based on the latest copy of the DSM, you would be right. The DSM defines a compulsion as repetitive behavior that the person feels compelled to perform in response to an obsession. Well, I have to admit that although I have not been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, I did receive a t-shirt one time from a venture capital, pair of venture capitalists, friends of mine that I've known, that said, is there a hyphen in anal retentive? They thought that was really appropriate. Of course, they presented that to me in front of my wife, who nodded vigorously in the affirmative. So I guess I do have a reputation for sticking to things. So maybe I'll get back to that. But in the meantime, I'll be doing some other stuff. I just really want to kind of take a break from that SX62 for now. So I am going to go ahead and wrap this one up. At some point in the future, in keeping with my obsession, I would like to work on this thing. This is a channelist. It's a device that was first built by the Ryder Corporation, I think in the very late 30s or maybe early 40s. This is from a 1949, I think, January 1949 radio maintenance advertising the particular model that I have, which is actually one that was produced by RCA. They bought the line from Ryder. But anyway, that's kind of where I'll be going later. But for right now, let me go back and finish up the SX62, at least the parts that I still have the video from, and then move on. These are the dial cord stringing instructions that come out of the SX62 manual by Hallicrafters. And you'll notice here is a kind of pictorial diagram. Now, I have found that the diagram in the Howard W. Sams PhotoFact easier to understand. Since I've never done this before, I'm going to try doing it in 2 steps and see if that works. It appears that you can do this one way, or one step is you have to get the dial knob, that is the tuning knob, to drive the capacitor. And what that consists of is, you may be able to see down in there a small shaft that comes out to the front as the tuning knob, and that has to be connected by a cord to the tuning shaft of the capacitor, which is this large unit here. That is what causes the capacitor to turn, and it suggests that you do this with the capacitor in its fully closed position, so it's right there. The second part of the stringing, which I will not do until I have this first part working correctly, involves the driving of the pointer. This is the pointer, and it fits on here and slides back and forth to indicate the tuning on the front panel. Now I'm going to do that one second. And based on what the PhotoFact shows, it looks like you can do them separately. So let me get started on that. I don't know that I'm going to be able to use a camera because frankly you can't see very much through there, but I'll see. What I'll do is I'll do a little experimenting here and see whether there's some steps that I can show you. But basically what I'm going to be doing is starting out with the 2.5 turns around this shaft. Bring the ends up. One end goes all the way around, goes around and comes in here. The other end goes all the way around and comes back in. So once I've gotten that done, I'll shoot a little more video, and hopefully that will get this driving the capacitor, because it was that drive that wasn't working very well earlier. Okay, I think I have accomplished the first test. You notice that there are 2.5 turns around the shaft there, and then that comes up, goes around, and eventually goes in here. One of them goes all the way around, the other one goes around halfway and ties to this spring. And it appears at this point that the condenser works fine. That is the tuning capacitor. I call it a condenser. That's what they were called back in the day. But it appears to tune smoothly. So that was the part that didn't work earlier. So now let's hope that I can hook up this other part and it won't add too much additional friction and cause this to bind up as it was doing before. Well, I think I have successfully completed the dial cord stringing. What I discovered is that actually the dial cord position in the SAMS PhotoFact is not correct for the SX62A. Apparently they changed the layout. I'll close this up in a second. In this, it shows the pointer that is the dial cord that controls this this pointer right here that slides across the slide rule dial, that it comes out the bottom when this is in this position. But I don't think that's right, because when I followed the dial stringing procedure here, which I'll show you a little bigger picture of it here, this worked. That is, the as you see, the dial mechanism and the tuning condenser work smoothly this way. But when I followed the original procedure in the Sam's PhotoFact, I either got something backwards or I misunderstood the diagram. At any rate, I wound up using this more complicated procedure here because it worked. So I wound up actually stringing this dial twice. But I'm happy with it. It's, I think, ready to go back together again. So now let's reassemble the front panel. I've reinstalled the sub panel. That is the, some people call this shroud, the thing that holds the lights for the dial, and the dial itself, the dial glass. And a good idea when you've done that is to make sure, at least if you're as as prone to mixing things up as I am, go ahead and check the that the lights are correctly synced to the band selector. So I'm going to use this to do it. I don't know if you can see that very well. There, 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 and back to broadcast. So what that tells me is that I have the bulbs back in the correct orientation. I'll show you back here how those work. They basically pop in. In other words, there's a little clip here that clips in. And I had numbered them when I took them out on the side over here so I could get them back in. That's a good idea, especially, as I say, if you tend to mix things up like I sometimes do. So anyway, I think that's back on, and the receiver seems to be working again. But now let's go ahead and install the front panel one more time, and then we'll give it a little bit of a final check. Okay, I'm going to do a little dial tracking test here. At the bottom end, I have 590, which is a local radio station.
Strategist, you name it, you'll remember this. Everybody was saying Trump was going to lose in the biggest landslide in the history of landslides.
And you see it's
and it wasn't that long
right
ago
on 590.
people were still talking that way.
Now let me go up to the high end of,
that's emails,
and that's 1370.
City Boston service helping businesses meet the requirements of the Universal Recycling Ordinance.
And you see it's pretty close to 1370, right between 60 and 80, 1360 and 1380. So I'm very happy with the tracking on this, and I think at this point we're ready to do final checks on this and put this video together and maybe put this whole project to bed. Well, this is the final power up. I'm using it now on FM. This is 89.5 if you look at the dial there, which is a local public radio station playing some classical guitar, something I myself tried 25 or 30 years ago. Great teacher, poor student. But anyway, I think that about wraps up this SX62A. I probably am going to use it more for FM, just for background music out here. I know it's a little bit of a tragedy to put in this much work and not use it for shortwave or anything, but the honest truth is the technology has passed this kind of receiver by. Modern solid-state receivers have much better sensitivity, a noise figure, etc. In case you're not a classical music fan, I'll turn this down. You may prefer to listen to that than listening to me, but at any rate, let's wrap this one up. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that this might inspire you to take on a project. I will admit, this is a bit of a challenge. This one is, there's a lot of circuitry, a lot of things go wrong, and a lot of restoration that needed to be done. But I'm happy that it was completed successfully, and it's now going to find its place over into that cabinet where you saw it at the very beginning in part 1. So, hope you had fun. Look forward to another video in the future.